Okay, so I'm going to have a look at the ceilings for both levels, but as I was saying, I'll start with the upper level ceiling. And so I'm just going to begin by having a look at my section to show you that I've got the roof at the moment extending down to the level your ceiling should be at. So the first thing we need to do before putting in a ceiling is to take out that part of the roof where the ceiling's going to go. And ordinarily you might not need to do this because the roof will be a fair way above your ceiling. But in this case, obviously, with the way we've modelled the ceiling means that it is coming down to that height, and so we've got to cut out a void for it. And there are different ways you could model the roof, but if you've done it this way, it's not a problem if you need to take out that area. And so to see that more clearly, I've gone to the level 1 ceiling plan, and then in the view properties for that level, for that view, I'm going to go down to the view range and click edit so that you can see the top of that view range, which you can edit. So it's edit next to view range, so down in the view properties towards the bottom. And so then, if you're adjusting the top in a ceiling plan, you need to set the view depth to at least be as high as that. So at the moment it's only going up to the roof, which is my highest level. So I'm just going to change that to unlimited. And so that means I'll also need to set the view depth to unlimited. Okay, so that means I'll be able to see everything above this. And you might be wondering why we can't see the roof that we know extends out here. It's because of the view range. Okay, so if I click OK now, then you can see it shows me that part of the roof that's projecting beyond the building. Okay, and so inside that curtain wall, we want the ceiling to sit. And so now I can easily model, if I go to, I'm just going to select that roof element. Okay, just there we go. And then edit in place. And now I'll go to make a void form and void extrusion. And then I'll use pick lines to pick the inside of my wall on each side where I want the ceiling to go. Oops, sorry, I don't need that one. I'll undo that. And then I'm going to pick the inside of my curtain walls there. You can see a couple of curtain walls I still need to tidy up, but that's not a problem. Okay, so just on each side where the ceiling edge needs to go. There we are, that's all I need. And then with trim to corner, I'll join those lines together. So that I've got a closed shape. Okay, so there we are, and just the final one there. Okay, so that should be a closed boundary running around the edge where my ceiling's going to go. But if I look now at the work plane, you can see it's still on level 1. So even though I'm working from the ceiling plan and I'm looking up, it's picking up the level below the what I'm looking at. Okay, so to change that, you can change that any time when you're working with an extrusion. You can always use the set button to change your work plane. Okay, so we set there, I'm going to change that to roof, and then OK. That's what I was, so set, you'll always have that when you're making an extrusion, and it's a really important concept. An extrusion is based on a 2D profile, and that profile needs to be located on a plane. So set? Yeah. And then you can choose the roof level. Yeah. Okay, so then I'm going to set my extrusion end. Well, 250 is actually not far off. I'll just make it 200 though. For now. Or, no, actually, let's quickly look at the photos. So you've got, if we go into the folder there, sorry, not CAD 2, you're modelling. And, okay, so if we look at those photos, you can see what sort of ceiling it is. Okay, so any idea what kind of ceiling that is? Talked about last week. So that's a suspended ceiling. Right, so you'll have a decent cavity there, and so it's good if you can show that in your section. All right, so I'm going to make this actually a bit higher. I'll make it at least 400, actually. And that's it. Tick to finish. Yep. That's just the height of the extrusion, and it's a void cutting out of the section. So now if I look in section 1, you can see it's cutting into that roof shape. There's still plenty of room above that, so I could even make that higher, maybe even up to about 800. So there we are. And then you don't need to detail the roof structure. I think it comes down as well, and then it's just got a suspended roof above this, but you don't need to detail any of that. So, so then I can finish the model, and I've got the space cut out for my ceiling to go in. And now back into the level 1 ceiling plan. I'll go to, just on the architecture tab, the ceiling tool. And then again, think about the level that I want to work on. So here it's got level 1 chosen. And if you're using automatic sealing, which I'm going to try to use, let's see if it's getting all the right sides. It is. Then, yeah. So okay. So if you've done a few walls in there, then you might need to use sketch sealing. So automatic sealing will find boundaries that are made with walls, and it's a useful option if you just want to put drop ceilings inside, especially inside interior walls. But if it isn't working, you can always use sketch sealing. And then again over here, I can change the level to roof. And I want the ceiling to sit exactly at the height of that level, so I'm going to set the height offset from level to 0. And then I can simply use pick walls and go all the way around. And this is pretty close to the way your space is going to be built, because it's essentially got the, if we look at the photos there, that suspended ceiling going across the walls. You can see that the walls there sit underneath that ceiling. Curtain walls, yeah, so that's right. It won't pick curtain walls. Well, it will, but it'll pick them on the centre line, which you probably don't want. So I'm going to use pick lines instead. And then you can pick an edge on the inside of one of the curtain walls. Alright, so then again, just using trim, I'm showing all those together. Okay, so I've got my closed shape, and then if I go to edit type, I'm just going to look at that ceiling. It's compound ceiling plane, which is pretty close to what you want, but I'm going to go to edit type, and then you can see also up the top you do have some preset ceilings. The 600 by 1200 grid is pretty close to what's there existing, so maybe I'll start with that one. And then if I go and edit to look at the structure, you can see it's got these two layers with the structure, which is essentially the ceiling grid, just the track, and then the ceiling tiles below that. So I'm going to leave it with that ceiling. Just want to show you that setup. And again, tick to finish. And you can see then the ceiling, which if you're going to use that for your design, can have the lights then placed in to line up with your ceiling grid. So, you have to be in your ceiling plan view to see it? Yeah. I'll check your section, so if you can see it in section, then you'll be able to change the height. You have to check where your section view is. Yeah. Okay, so I'll just show you this in section. Okay, so you can see then that it's exactly at the height of the level. You can see the thickness there. And if you want to, you can show the hangers later to show it being suspended from above. But again, that's something to worry about later. The main thing is that you've got room above it, so that when you place recessed lights into that ceiling, they're not going to get blocked by the roof. So I'll maybe just put a few in again, level 1 ceiling plan, and don't worry if the ceiling plan doesn't show things the way you expect them to at first. It does take a bit of setting up. So now though, if I go to component, load family, and then the lighting folder, architectural, internal, and there are some, they call them troffer lights. It's American. And they do also have these linear box lights. So they're pretty close to fluorescent lights that you'd have typically. So I'll just use one of those. Okay, so space to rotate, and well, that's not working, so I'll just place it roughly, and let's see if that's... Oh, that's actually not the one I wanted. That's a surface mounted light anyway, so you can see it's going over the ceiling, not under, not recessed into it. Again, back to component, load family, lighting, architectural, internal, and yeah, those troffer lights should be right. Here we go. So if you look at the sizes there, you can see you have 300 by 1200, and again it doesn't want to rotate using space, so I'll just click to place it, and let's have a look at that in section. Yeah, okay, so that one you can see is recessed. And back in the level 1 ceiling plan, I can use rotate to bring it around 90 degrees, move with the base point on the corner and then going down to the intersection of one of those grids, and then you can just keep copying or placing additional lights that way. And a line works really well here. If you pick on the ceiling grid and then the edge of one of those, it works pretty well. And let's move that over. Okay, so the other lighting folder, if we go back to component, load family, and then the Revit library you have on the P drive. Here. Lighting, and there are more. So more troffers, and then you have the lighting fixtures folder, where there are even more. And the where is it? Interior lights folder. There's a few more. These are pretty similar actually, but there are, where are we? Strip lights and the others that might be what you're after. And then the, where is it? Ceiling lighting. Oh no, that's the Australian one, which doesn't have much. But anyhow, those should get you started. And so then with the ceiling on the lower level, basically you can use the same approach. So to start with, go to the ceiling plan for that level, ground floor in your ceiling plans. Make sure you can see what you want by going to look at the view range. So edit next to view range in your properties. Have a look at the settings there, and if you need to, make it go higher. In this case, I don't really need to change that much. And then when you make your ceiling, think about the height it needs to be above the level. So when I go to the ceiling tool there, in this case you can see it's picked up ground floor as my level. So I'll just cancel that and just show you in the section the heights. And if I go and measure the distance there from the ground floor to the bottom of that slab, you can see it's only 3050. So I don't know if you've had a look at what floor thickness you need for that suspended slab, but it's probably not a bad idea to base it on what's existing, and you can see it there. So that's more than 150, and so you need to allow at least that thickness for the slab. So I'm going to change this floor to a generic 300 mil. And then again, measure from the floor to the bottom of that slab. So 2900 is what I have left. So if you're planning on just lining the underside of that ceiling, then you would just need 10 mil below that for your render, essentially. If even that. It probably would just be painted, but you could allow 10 mil, which is pretty close to, well, who knows what they've done. The other option though is to put in essentially a bulkhead, or to build that ceiling down. And so to do that, it's fairly simple, as long as you know the heights. So again, just measuring 2900 is what you have to play with. So in the ground floor ceiling plan, I will go and make a new ceiling using sketch ceiling. And you can see then, if I go to the plane ceiling and edit type, I'm not going to even duplicate this because it's not being used. So I'll just edit that, and I'll make the lower level just 10 mil, and then to give me 200 mil, I'll make that 190 for the structure, and then OK. I'm going to leave the level on ground floor and set the height offset from the level edge 2700. So there are the two ways you can set the ceiling height. You can either set it directly to a level, or you can set it to the level below and then set a height above that. Alright, so we want this with, I'll just use pick lines for all of it. I'm not going to worry too much about pick walls anymore. So I'll just pick on the inside edge of that wall. And then so that it's set out from the edge of the curtain wall, I'm going to put an offset of maybe just 100, 150, something like that. So let's see, if I do 150, that'll keep it clear of the columns, hopefully. We've got to do something about that column anyway. And then I'll do that for all of these walls where the ceiling needs to be set in. Just picking all those edges. And now I need to follow this wall again, so I'll set the offset back to 0. Pick those lines and oops. Okay, so then with trim to corner, join all that together again. Okay, so I've got then a shape set out from the edge of my curtain wall, so I'll finish that and show you in section now. You can see it's set down from the floor above. You can join those together if you like with the join tool. If you want to make them meet as one thing, oops, which can be handy. The wall there can be attached to the ceiling if you want to have that finish underneath it. And then finally, to put lights into this now, again in the ground floor ceiling plan, using component, and then load family, I'll just get a standard recessed light. So the downlight recessed can. And if you can see the light when you're placing it in the ceiling plan, then everything's working. Right, so I might just put a few in here around the stairs, maybe some near the entry. And then it's really worthwhile at that point to check that it's rendering. So if you get that far, then just do a quick camera view that's looking at that area where, well, these trees are in the way, so I'll just get those in the plan out of the way. Oops. Okay, so I'll just do a quick render just to check that it's all working. So interior artificial only. Well, I'll try exterior artificial only because that's what it is. Because there's nothing worse than putting in a stack of lights and then realising later that they don't work. Okay, so there we are. It might look a bit dark, but if you go to adjust exposure and then make that brighter, you should be able to see the lights pretty clearly doing something. There we go. Maybe too bright there, but hopefully you get the idea. And for interiors projects, that's a really worthwhile view to have.
I'm suggesting that's a nice rendering.
Sorry?
Because I think last the museum,
Yep.
the teachers were like, oh, it looks very realistic.
Right.
And sometimes it's hard to communicate like very realistic stuff.
Yeah, I know.
This
Well,
is amazing.
yeah.
But what do you suggest?
Well, look, out in industry, that's what they want, is realistic things, because they want to show what the design is. They're not scared of showing their own design work because it's going to be built in real life. So, you know, people who are mainly sketch-based or who maybe aren't doing a lot of real projects tend to like doing different graphics, and that's a good thing to experiment with, and you do that as a student quite often. But again, out in the real world, the majority of, it depends on what sort of work you're doing. I know with some interior designers who do a lot of hotel work that's done on, you know, pretty quick turnaround. They'll do a lot of the initial setup just with sketch type designs and get the sign off that way. But again, with the larger scale projects, and definitely with, you know, shopping centres, which is where a lot of the work is for interiors, retail, they want realistic renders. And there's nothing wrong. I don't see what the problem is with showing how the design will look rather than showing a nice drawing. It's lovely to have nice drawings, but if it's got nothing to do with, I mean, when you see something that looks nothing like the original drawings or the original models even, you kind of wonder what the point is, or if you're really doing graphic design or if you're doing interior design. So, yeah, but it's a personal preference. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, depends who. Yeah, look, it's good. It is good to mix it up and try different techniques. But and the hand drawing has made a bit of a comeback in the last few years. But I think that's mainly in academia and people who are teaching that way because that's what they know. But again, you see a lot of the built work out there. It's really, if you've seen the drawings that are done for that work, it's pretty realistic and pretty high quality at that. Yeah, but it is personal preference in here.
There's videos on.
Yeah, yes, I'll just finish that one now.